welcome back to GM Happy Hour. What? It's been like 2 years. Welcome again. We're like in the middle of STF Con at this point, so welcome doesn't feel right, but I hope that you guys have been having a good weekend so far. We are really, really excited to bring GM Happy Hour back. So excited that we have some news at the end of this panel about our excitement for the GM Happy Hour content, so you have to listen to the whole thing for that. But as always, I am joined by my fellow GMs, Griff, Tyler, and Allard. Welcome back to the panel. Griff, tell me a little bit about yourself as if I didn't already know.
Sure. Hey, I'm Griff. I am the primary game master of Hideous Laughter Productions. We do a couple of podcasts. One is the Hideous Laughter Podcast. That's a Skulls and Shackles conversion to 2E. There's also the Bestow Curse Podcast. That one is a 2E conversion of Curse of the Crimson Throne. Then we got a little Patreon side game called Speak with Plants, where I get to be a player in a 2E conversion of Iron Fang Invasion. And they're all very fun. You should check them out.
I agree. I concur with that sentiment.
Oh, I'm glad you do.
Tyler, who the hell are you?
What's up? My name's Tyler. I'm the game master for the Min-Max podcast. We play full Paizo adventure paths. Right now we are recording-wise, release-wise, I should say, smack dab in the middle of the Bloodlords campaign, where we've got a party of mostly undead PCs, and I'm dealing with the intricacies of, do skeletons breathe? Can ghosts climb? It's a bunch of BS, but we have a ton of fun. Yeah. Really looking forward to hanging out with y'all again.
You should also check out Tyler's shows too.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have to, whatever.
You should though. Allard, what's up, buddy?
Yo, Allard here. I used to GM the Dice Crisis podcast, but that is complete. So if you ever want to listen to a decanonized run of Second Darkness, go for it. Because there's no longer drow down there. It's lizard folk, right?
Something like that, yeah.
But now I'm a producer editor over at the HLP for their Skull and Shackle campaign. It sounds pretty nice. Go check it out.
It does. You're doing a great job over there.
Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I'm Adam. I'm the STF person here. If you don't know STF, how did you get here? Welcome that you're here. There's a lot to it. Star folk, all that kind of stuff. But we got a lot of questions to get to today. Does everybody have a drink for happy hour?
Wouldn't be happy hour without one, baby.
Yeah. What you drinking on there, Griff?
I am drinking something that was gifted to me by my friend Karen. It is Balvenie Caribbean Cask. I got a little sampler of it, and it's delicious. It's a scotch.
Allard, what you shaking around in that little mini
just
decant?
a little almost almost done bottle of Patron.
Okay.
Just a casual Patron.
Just a casual Patron shots.
Yeah, I don't have any lime or anything, but it'll be okay.
That's what makes it casual.
Exactly.
I'm not dressing this one up.
I'm not dressing it up. Tyler, are you drinking anything today?
Tall glass of water for me today.
Nice.
Glass of water. Got to keep hydrated, boys.
I got my hydration on deck too.
Yeah, I'm drinking a little bourbon and soda with a splash of watermelon. Pretty good.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Sounds nice. Nice summer drink.
Yeah.
How's bourbon and watermelon work together? Are they nice?
It's Makers, so the Makers is a little sweet already.
Yeah.
And the watermelon, it's like it's not too sweet, so it just gives it like a nice like refreshing
effervescence.
Yeah. Yes, correct. Yes.
Tasty.
So today we are just going to answer questions that you guys posted leading up to this event, and Allard is going to be our MC in asking these questions to us. You can still get questions in at the chat here on Twitch. Tyler just put that out there too, and we'll try to get to as much as we can. We're very verbose though, so I can't guarantee that we'll get to everything, but we will do our best.
We have a tendency.
Tendency to tangent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
License the tangent, baby.
That should be like That should be like the subtitle of this show. GM Happy Hour, tendency to tangent.
Yeah.
It's actually a pretty good tagline.
Yeah, it's good.
GM happy hour. 4 hours if you want the full thing.
Yeah. All right, Allard, take it away, buddy.
All right. Well, I feel like this is a good way to start off the questions. Got one from Old Scratch in Discord. What changes have you noticed to your GM style since last time we had one of these shows?
Oh, wow. Wow.
God, it's been 2 years.
It's
I
been
know.
2 years.
You changed it all?
Yeah, for me, I mean, and I think all of us can say this, we've completed a full adventure since then. And once you complete it, for me, there was this little sense of like making sure I got it all right, lifted. Like
Yeah.
now that I've done it, like I just come into GMing stuff a lot less stressed about making sure that it's all like perfect and like lined up and arranged, because so much of that stuff takes care of itself. And you don't, it takes some time, I guess, to trust the process that will happen, but at this point it's like, okay, well, I've managed to take characters from 1 to 20 in a system. At this point, there's not much, at least in Starfinder, that's going to throw me off my game. You know what I mean? Like, especially starting over now. And so it's just a lot more casual when it comes to my like prep approach and stress levels, about it.
I think running a game for an audience too, having run a full adventure, you realize that your listeners find perfection in that imperfection. The stuff that happens as a riff that you didn't plan for ends up being very popular and things that people love. And so it takes a lot of stress off of trying to actually prepare those special moments. They just happen. And GMing for a long time, you realize that they do, and you lean on your players a little bit more. I think that's where I've changed, is that I lean on my players a lot more
Yeah.
for the good content, because I'm just the arbiter of them being able to deliver that. I think, to your same point, prep has kind of taken more of a backseat than it did in the past. I was prepping all the time for our first campaign, and now I feel like I can understand where they're going to be in 2, 3 sessions. I can prep that, and I can kind of let that be a little bit flexible. I think maybe that's because I'm running Skull and Shackles now, which is very sandbox after the first book, so I have to get myself prepared for how that's going to go. But I think I've tried to take the stress out of it, and now it is a lot more fun than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I would echo Adam and Griff to an extent too. I mean, the more that you worry about prepping for the show itself, the less fun you tend to have in the moment, because you have a lot of stress of, okay, I've got this beat coming up and I want to make sure we hit this beat correctly, and in reality, your table has a rhythm, and if you try to force them into a cadence that they don't want to be in, it doesn't land anyways, no matter how much you prepped ahead of time.
It almost works against you.
Yeah, it really does.
It totally does.
It really does. I can say with with a lot of confidence that I've actually, ever since we wrapped up Extinction Curse, gone into Bloodlords, I've actually returned more to how I used to GM before we started recording, which has made the game more fun for me, less fun for David in editing. But that's his monster. He wants to fight it, so I'll let him wrestle it. But it's become more fun, and I feel like, and I've heard this for sure. I've listened to some Under the Table with STF. I've listened to Skulls and Shackles with Hideous Laughter. Y'all feel more comfortable where you're at. You feel more comfortable on recording. And it's speaking of tangents, a little bit of a tangent. I was just browsing Twitter this morning, and I saw somebody say that actual plays, because people are being recorded, by the sheer virtue of people being recorded, you're not going to be actually playing the game that you would be off recording. That's just the way humans are. As soon as you put a camera in front of them, as soon as you put a microphone in front of them, they change, right?
Yeah.
But to another extent, the longer we do this, the more natural we feel, the more we can return to just playing the game.
Yeah, we all regress back to crab at some point.
I felt my shell growing back in. I don't know what's going on.
What about you, Allard? You got a home game, don't you?
Yeah, I just started a home game, bringing some D&D people into Pathfinder 2E.
Doing Lord's work.
We started off with a little beginner's box. So I would say that going into that being a home game, not recorded, I did far less prep, and I was way more open to just like letting them do their silly stuff and then kind of throwing something in their path or making sure that they're still kind of gonna play the story. Like they spent like 4 in-game hours drinking that Gazra water that makes them puke, just so they could just until they could successfully make a save and see what it does. So the stuff like that, I'm just looser. I'm not worried about it being interesting for people listening. I'm just worried about it being fun for the people around the table. That's probably the biggest difference. But now that everyone has finished an adventure, I got a question from eRob's RPG in chat here. What elements do you think are most important in pulling off a satisfying ending? And maybe what did you learn from getting to the end?
I guess the first thing I would ask was everyone satisfied with the way they ended their adventures?
I
Yes.
think so.
Absolutely.
I imagine you all were, because the endings were fantastic, but there's a perfectionism that comes with GMing that is, did I do it to its fullest? Did I feel like it ended right? I'll say that, you all seem satisfied. I'm very satisfied with how mine ended. And I can just speak to Carrying Crown because it's the only thing that I've finished recently, but I was very happy that I could incorporate a higher level curve than the adventure allows and some mythic stuff just to make that ending as epic as I felt like it deserved, given that it was 5 years of all of my friends' lives. So I was super pleased with it. It was kind of an emotional connection to me. Like I put in the like Haley's character getting married because we finished the adventure like right before her and I got married. So it was very emotionally satisfying, and I don't think I would change a thing about it. Even if I could go back and I could do everything perfectly, I don't think the way that I pulled it off is something that I would tweak.
Yeah, I
It did have
mean,
a very epic ending.
I
Yeah.
definitely agree with pretty much all his sentiments. Is that when we got to go to level 20, so I didn't really have to like amp up the difficulty to make it feel epic at the end, right? Just because of the nature of the particular adventure. But that adventure's ending was not suitably epic as an ending to the APA as a whole. So like the biggest thing that for me that I would say to answer the question that made it satisfying was I took in the context of the entire adventure, not just the one that we were completing, right? So we were doing 3 adventures, but like I took the context of the whole character growth and made sure that that was getting an ending too, rather than just the adventure itself.
I think that's something you have to do in Paizo Adventures for the most part, right? It's, book 6 is written in a silo, and you really have to tie it back to the whole campaign to make it feel super satisfying. It can certainly feel satisfying for like completing book 6. If you ran book 6 in a vacuum, it'd be satisfying.
Right.
But to make it satisfying to those level 1 characters that you met years ago, there's a little bit of finessing you got to do. And I think most GMs do that. Most GMs, their most excited moment is concluding this adventure.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to pulling off a satisfying finale, an adventure, and especially like Griffin, you guys did Carrying Crown for so long, man.
Yeah, it was long, baby. We went long. We had a couple arcs in there that weren't in the books too. It was a long one.
You want to be taking elements from the early parts of those stories, just like these guys said, and pulling them back, or pulling them into the present of where the characters are now, allowing them to see that growth. The way that I did that in the Extinction Curse game that I ran was toward the end of book 5, beginning of book 6, before they really went on to the big final arc of the adventure. I brought in an interviewer, right? Like an actual reporter from Absalom, and secluded each of the characters. I'm like, all right, guys, in character, you're going to be doing an interview, right? And pulling their history, and not just pulling their history, but pulling their history from an outsider's perspective, and allow them to even in character either justify their own actions or, look back on it, see how the world would color their actions in the beginning parts of the campaign, and allow them to react to that, because the players have an idea of what they were doing, who they were, what they were trying to be, right? But if you get to take the actions that they committed early in a campaign and then present them back to them in a hey, a fly was on the wall and was watching you do this, and they didn't see your morality while they were doing it, they saw something else, right? And then allow them to confront their past in that way as well, to let them really think about the entire story that they've been through, and I think that's one of my favorite ways to do it when you're getting to the end of a campaign, is just forcing them to view it from another NPC's perspective.
I'd like to
kind of experience the growth that they've had as a character, seeing how somebody perceived them when they're local.
Piggyback off that, even in the adventures that we did before the podcast, one thing that I always have in the endings of any adventure is showing how their actions impacted the world that they live in, right? So to your point, you got this reporter, it's like, well, I've heard about all these things you did, I think it's important to have a satisfying ending to show not only the ending of the narrative for the players, but what are the lasting impacts of what happened because of that narrative to the world. What did these players, these characters, how did they change the world? Because these are stories about epic heroes, and so you want to see a little bit of outside of, okay, we defeated the boss, but how is the landscape of this world changed because of our actions? I think that's really helpful to bring a satisfying conclusion.
That's one ending that I don't think works for every adventure, but I think worked well for the one I ran, where I just kind of took people that they had interacted with and met and had them join their cause to the end. Take them to the end and allow this epic battle to be even bigger than just the players, but let them focus on the main evil and kind of show okay, this guy that you saved in a trial, he's here and he's fighting on your side. This group of people that have been inspired by a character you left behind 3 books ago are all here joining you. Your actions led to you having all of this support. And that's something I love at the end of adventures, whether it be, let's look back at everything you've done and paint this in the way that you want to paint it, or here's all the people you influenced and they're here for you. They support you.
Yeah. Totally.
And for me, I feel like I maybe rushed my ending from the GM standpoint a little bit, but what I did that I think worked and was good is I just gave my players, I was like, okay, here's where it ends. Now tell me what happens to your character afterwards. You can fill in, just kind of go crazy. So Eli's character was like, I'm going to start a Targaryen revolution. I'll be all dragon riders and blah, blah, blah. So having just kind of being able to have the players kind of self-fulfill their fantasies a little bit with a little bit of epilogue is always nice too.
Yeah, this adventure didn't cover everything you possibly wanted to do with this character. What now that they're this epic adventurer, what are they going to do?
Well, and the beautiful thing about doing that at the end of a game is that you have the opportunity to be like, all right, guys, let's just riff for an hour about the what we did was we took where the circus went after, and we just told the story until they completed their lives as characters, and just to kind of see where it went. What, you have all this power, you don't need to roll dice. Tell me what happens,
Yeah, what do you do?
It's fun, it gives them a chance
Yeah.
to really like wrap up their own stories in a way that they don't have any conflict that gets in the way. The whole campaign was conflict that gets in the way of story, of character development. It's kind of fun just to let them do it at the end the way they want to do it.
I love that too, because it lets them shape the world. And if you continue a world through these stories, which a lot of people that run Paizo Adventures do because they're all set in the same universe, you can have their extrapolated story incorporated into a story that happens later.
Oh,
It's
It's
definitely.
something that you
Definitely.
can, you can say, hey, you were this epic dragon rider. Now these level one or these level one PCs that you have in this campaign have heard about the story of those dragon riders, and it's
Oh,
just like this whole
absolutely.
full circle, really fun thing to
I
do.
mean,
Yeah.
for our new show, we're starting up Drift Delvers. It exists in a world where Ziva achieved political success, so
Mhm.
like that's now an NPC of this new world. Like she's a key, and all of them and all their exploits and everything that the APA did. The APA exists in their world, so like it is a company and a faction that now exists in any Starfinder game that we play. And really interested in interacting with that.
That's a beautiful
Okay,
thing about playing adventures with a single table is you get to cyclically reward your players for
yeah,
joining you on adventures in the past.
that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, next question.
All right, next question. Back
Tendency
into the
to
Discord. Oh, do you got one?
no, I was just saying our tagline.
Oh.
Tangentially.
Let's go into the Discord again. Shan?
Shan, yep.
Shan? What moment in a game you've run, what's one moment in a game you've run where you felt the most proud either of yourself or your players? Story beats, roleplay moments, combats.
Ooh, I have a good
Goodness.
one for this. I am so proud of my players every time they do a eulogy. Every time they memorialize someone they lost is, I love sitting back and listening to that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I get to interact and inject an NPC into those moments, but it's just really beautiful to watch them like expel the emotions they have for that character that's gone in a way that like through their character's lens. And I'm so proud of them. I just, I love to be hands off during that
Mhm.
and just let it flow.
Yeah, you've had some good ones, not gonna lie.
Uh,
Have you had the most PC deaths?
I don't think so. Certainly Tyler has to.
I guess
I mean, on
Tyler has
recording,
gotten
I think, is what he means.
You've gotten yeah.
Well, and also like Griff,
Bloodlords
you've
did
had
have a couple.
lot more shows too, so there's a lot more potential.
There's more potential for it,
Yeah,
certainly. Yeah.
For me, it's similar to Griff, although broader in the sense that I just get proud when the players carry the scene, whether it's a eulogy or it's some emotional exchange between the two of them. And I feel like what I have the most pride in as us as a group and what we accomplished was what we did with the Shadow arc in season 2 of APA and bringing the Shadow arc to the main arc back together. Like those episodes, basically 169, the finale of season 2, the way that everybody came together with their parts and it all just, it really, I think that that's a peak that I'll be chasing for a long time because it was so many moving parts and so much struggle leading up to that, like trying to get to this. Okay, we've got this group of characters and we got this group of characters, and they got to come together at this point. But I'm not telling you guys how it's going to happen, but I need you to be ready for it when it does, and like so, it just really, really. There was so much anxiety around that, and then when it happened, it was just beautiful, and that's something that I'll always treasure, for the rest of my life.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely will echo Adam and Griff, and I feel like that we do that to an extent So I'll take it a
We're
little bit.
proud of our friends, man.
We're proud of our
Yeah.
friends, you know. Also, we like sitting back and watching them do the work of, you know, doing RP and
We're
carrying the
lazy as
scene.
shit, man.
Yeah.
Every time
for
the
my
PCs just take the work.
Right, exactly. For myself, on top of that, one of the other things I really enjoy when it happens at my party, at my table, I should say, is when conflict within a party gets resolved with the characters, you know, between themselves, right? I'm always really proud when they can take their own character's morality, compare it with the rest of the party, and even compare it to the adventure that's happening, and then decide, okay, no, my character doesn't actually agree with what we're doing right now. Let's figure this out right now. And I've had that moment resolve in a couple of different ways. I've had PvP before in game. I've even recorded that PvP. We got to release that one here pretty soon. And you know, or a player character leaving the party to join the bad guys, quote bad guys, because they found that their morality actually fit with them a little bit better than it did the own party's morality. And to have them resolve that within themselves, and if we can start rolling dice and, you know, get into initiative when we do it too, that's always tons of fun. I'm always proud when we can do that, have it make sense, and not carry salt with us when we're done with the game. You know, we're all still friends at the end of it. Like, hey, I'm proud that you guys were just swearing at each other 10 minutes ago and now we're laughing about it now. That's always fun.
I always like it when PCs surprise me with either combat or role play, like doing something with the environment that I didn't expect, like, I don't know, running up a ship mast and jumping off of it and doing some sort of slam area of effect thing. Or there was a puzzle that I didn't understand as the GM, but I had like worked out ways that they could figure it out still with roles. But then they figured it out how it actually worked at the table and actually helped it go a lot better.
I would look through the
Reverse
book like,
carded you.
oh,
Oh, that makes way more sense. You're so right.
You did
See,
it.
now.
Heck yeah. Just PCs being good is always nice, you know.
yeah.
Players. Let's go back to chat from Metal Health Singer. Do you have any advice for relatively new GMs when many of their players are more familiar with the gamer system? Should the GM be asking them for advice?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Have an assistant GM in that group. Someone that can look up the rules or knows the rules a lot better than you is a huge asset, and I have that in all the games that I run. You know, I have somebody that's fantastic at the rules and will check me, and I want to be checked because, you know, releasing a recorded thing, I don't want something to happen that is wrong by the rules that is impactful.
Right.
If it's wrong by the rules and it's not impactful, I could let it slide, or I can make a snap ruling. But if it's impactful, I love knowing that there's someone at the table that knows more than me. And as a new GM, you can create the habit of trust. You can allow yourself to defer. And that's something that a lot of GMs don't like to give up. But you can start being that way, and it will vastly improve your experience as a GM.
Absolutely.
Habit of trust. Habit of trust. That is a great phrase for when you're playing at a table. You know, I mean, you know, when you're a brand new GM and you're looking at advice, whether you're reading it online or checking out videos or whatever the thing is, you know, even a lot of players will say the GM has the final say. And that is something that works for some tables, but the longer I do this, the more I find that that's not actually the best way to keep table chemistry fluid moving forward. In my opinion, the best way to keep that chemistry fluid and want people to come back to your games is that this is a collaborative storytelling game. That's what we do, right? So why can't moments of contention between whether it's rules or what characters do or whatever the case is, be a collaborative process to solve? Yeah, I mean, like when you're playing, Society, for example, or you're playing with a bunch of people you don't know, sure, GM has the final say. You don't have to go back to that table. But when you're playing with family and friends and people you love, collaborate, build a habit of trust at the table.
I also think that it's, to the question, should the GM be asking players for advice? I mean, yeah, because I don't think it's the GM's sole responsibility, or it's not the sole responsibility of the GM to know the rules of the game. You know what I mean? Like everybody that comes should at least know how their characters work, and to some degree should have a basic understanding of the basic structure of the game. And I think that a lot of times it's been normalized that the GM is supposed to be the only arbiter of the rules, and that the players job is to push against those boundaries as much as they can. And I don't think that really makes for a sustainable or interesting table in the long run. Like, yeah, you might be able to do a wall flip and it's really cool at this moment, but then like then when the enemy tries to do it, you're like, well, that defies physics. And it's like, well, yeah, we set the standard here early, like, so like I guess all I'm saying is, one, if you're asking for rules advice from the players, you're not risking spoiling anything, because you're just asking about the mechanics. And that, yeah, the whole table should be invested in getting the rules right to the level that the table has agreed on that they want to do it. Like some people don't want to be to all the way down to the raw, right? And rule cool reigns supreme. But I would advise, for me, to give the raw a chance first before you start saying, I don't like this rule, I don't like this rule, I don't like this rule, because most of those things are there to arbitrate fun and to make it easier to do the things that you want to do. And if you see rules as only as boundaries rather than opportunities, I think you're missing out, and you end up trying to force a game to do something that it wasn't designed to do.
Well, I think,
Absolutely.
you made a fantastic comment about the wall flip. Like that goes right back to Tyler's comment about it should be more of a collaboration. If if you can set the standard with your table and you trust your table and you say like, hey, you can push this guy, you can do this wall flip, but if you do this wall flip, know that I can do it in the future, and everyone agrees to that, that's a better table. That's
Mm-hmm.
a rule
Yeah.
that you set in stone, that is something that everyone wants and is something that cannot be contended in the future because
Right.
everyone has agreed to it.
Right.
And I think, those collaborative rulings allow you to get away with a little bit of things that maybe aren't raw, but are fun and can benefit both sides and can allow for that fun moment and can also allow for the GM to flip that back in a fun way.
Mm-hmm.
And
And the more the PCs or the players know about the rules, it's like I feel like the constraints don't allow you to be less creative. Constraints allow you to be more creative within the constraints to do the things you want to do. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times the mechanics will actually give you a better grounds to visualize and see what it is you're trying to do, instead
Mm-hmm.
of just being like, I want to do this but I don't know how to do it. I know how to do this, so I can do this as well, is kind of how I see it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
give the people at the table agency. And you're a player too. You're
Yeah.
you're a
Right.
game master, right? But you're there to have fun too. If you're not having fun because your players are, no, you can't do that because it's not within the rules, but you've, allowed them to do that in the past, then be like, okay, guys, hey, everybody needs their moment, right? Can I have my moment too?
Right.
To
But
kind-
if your idea of fun is just winning,
well, I
change
mean,
your mindset as a new
Change your
GM, because that's
mindset.
not going to be your future.
yeah, the
Yeah,
game's not
no.
about winning.
The game is specifically designed for you as the GM to lose like 95% of the time.
Yeah,
Like,
the vast majority of the
no.
time. To speak to that question on a narrative standpoint, this one took me a really long time to get over. But characters' motivations are their motivations. They're not your motivations. They're not your players' motivations. They're not your players' characters' motivations, right? If a villain or an NPC is doing something that you're like, I don't understand that. Why would they do that? Think about, put yourself in in their shoes and say, okay, well, why would somebody do this thing, right? And then trust that. right? Trust what you're either. Sometimes it's trusting the adventure path when you don't feel like you should, but just give it, give it a shot, right? Then the other part is trust your own judgment on what that character would do based on their motivations. You don't have to spoil a story in order to solidify an NPC's motivations and how that impacts the party.
Mm-hmm. Like, and as far as spoiling the story, like when we were first doing Starfinder, I would tell the cast a week or two in advance when a starship combat was coming up. You know what I mean? Like, and that could be seen as spoiling the story. Like, they didn't know that they were going to get attacked here, but it made the starship combat so much more fun because then everybody had an opportunity to prepare themselves and like execute that in a way that made them feel proficient and good at doing it, right? And so like you just have to decide for yourself what you want to give up. But I would argue that you can talk yourself out of a lot of productive things by the big scary word of spoilers, and some things aren't necessarily spoiling the story, they're just preparing you for the actual game that we're playing, which can't be ignored. This is not just a story, it is also a game. And the story will be better when you're more comfortable with the game.
Yeah.
And you can even go as far to say to a player, hey, there's a situation coming up that your character, based on how I know them, is going to react. So I need you to start thinking ahead of time, what would this player do in this type of situation? You don't have to spoil what that situation is going to be, but get them in that mindset so that instead of taking them completely off guard with a shot out of left field, they can go, okay, I've been thinking about this. They warned me that I need to start thinking about this in character. And then they get to take that premeditation that they've been doing. Your players are not your characters. They don't live in that mindset 24/7. So give them the opportunity to put themselves there before the event or whatever it is occurs.
I think especially because you have experienced players, soft spoilers for a smooth game.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
They're gonna pick up on the hooks and the hints way more quickly, and then be like, okay, I can play with this instead of just being like, oh, this is the thing that we're doing.
Yeah, it's exactly Adam's point too. It's like you have people that are more experienced than you in the system. Give them a heads up. Starship combat's coming. They're gonna be locked in on that rule set, and they're gonna help you so much when it's time to do that. I do the same thing when it's like, guys, we're gonna have underwater combat coming up. That's a whole nother rule set. Like everybody knows their rule set, everybody's ready to play, and it makes such a smooth game. It's not really spoiling it. It's like you're on an island or you're leaving the planet. Like
There's underwater
potential to
combat.
happen.
There's underwater combat in this pirate adventure.
What are you doing?
What?
But letting them know a
Surprise.
couple times, like,
Yeah.
a couple sessions ahead is a fantastic way to get them versed on the rules. You remember to verse yourself on the rules, and the session rolls smooth, even if you're a new GM.
Well, and it creates some excitement in a lot of ways. It's like a little teaser.
Yeah.
So now they're
I
coming
get to use my 10-foot swim speed, baby.
Yeah.
I get to use my captain thing.
Yeah,
Put the
they
club
come in
away and pull out the
excited
rapier.
rather than being put in a position of total anxiety because they weren't prepared for whatever specific rule set was there. Great question, Health Slinger. Really, that was a good question.
And in the midst of that, Tyler, you mentioned society. Mr. Dr. Roboto Man asks, are there any of you that play Starfinder Society? We can do this Pathfinder Society too. If yes, what has been your experiences with it and connecting it to others in the society? If no, why haven't you played it?
I've played Pathfinder Society a couple of times, mostly at cons, but also one of the local game stores had a society game that Steve and I decided to join just to kind of play. I haven't run an official society. I've run society scenarios, but nothing in an official capacity. And I think society scenarios are fantastic for trying new builds, for actually getting playtime. I think it's very possible to make friends and stem a society game into something long term if you're not at a con, if you're at like a local game store. those people show up and play society games. If you really gel with a group that you played society in, it's very simple to be like, hey, what if we played Bloodlords? What if we play,
Mm,
you can easily morph that into a longer standing campaign, but you don't have to. A lot of society scenarios link, and you can run, 4 or 5 sessions off of a succinct storyline that with the same characters. Um, it's no knock on society for me, but I will say as a GM, I am a lot more stressed when I'm not playing with my comfort people.
fair.
I think a lot of people are. I mean, that's just the nature of putting yourself out there. But I've been doing this for many years, and I'll just say, like, even in an STF con game I played last night, like I get the nervous jitters to run a game for people that I don't normally run games for because I in my home games lean so heavily on my players. So I will say that's definitely an obstacle to overcome if you have an existing game group and you want to do society. The groups are going to form and it's going to be a different mix of people and it's going to be a different mix of viewpoints. And there might be some, power gamers or some role players. You might not have the perfect balance. And that's okay because you're with them for 4 hours. And if you didn't like it, you
Don't
can
go
leave it.
back. It's a
Yeah,
blind first date.
yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, Griff pretty much summed it up, and we're running short on time. I do want to get to some other questions, but yeah, Griff pretty much nailed it on the head. I think that all of us are aware of the privilege that we have to have a regular gaming group that then in a way makes society games feel less appealing to us because we have this comfortable, deep connection with the players. And so it's always been hard for me to talk about society because I think it's a really good thing and it's a great way to get into the hobby if you don't have a group. But as somebody who's coming from a group that's so dedicated that we're doing a podcast, it seems so far removed from how I want to play the game that I feel I don't have a lot to say about it,
Yeah. Be prepared to be disappointed. Be prepared to be pleasantly surprised. Be prepared to cede the spotlight to the people at the table. Absolutely be prepared to give the other people at the table a chance to shine. Because if you're not giving somebody else at the table the opportunity to the chance to shine, and this goes for all games, but especially in society games, a lot of players in this space will completely clam up if they don't feel like they're being given the space to play the way they want to play, right? So be prepared to cede that to other people when you're at the table, for sure.
And you'll be invited back if you do.
Yeah,
Totally.
100%.
All right, Allard, what we got?
All right. Well, since you all run VTTs these days, correct? Virtual tabletops. What level of rules crunchiness are you comfortable with, and does the VTTs help with the high level
God, yes.
crunchiness?
It's a crutch,
Yes.
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crutching myself. I
Yeah.
mean, like even Wani, I was like, Hero Lab, I need you to, you need to figure this out. We're doing level 15, 2 mythic tiers. I'm not going to figure this out on my own. Put it
I'll
all
tell
in.
you, from
This
first
question
edition,
was
it
from
took me a
Monster
solid
Booyah.
probably 6 years of regular gameplay around a table with paper and pencils and dice before I was like, okay, I'm comfortable enough to be able to make rulings without referencing the book. The VTTs are some of the best thing that's ever happened to this hobby, period.
Yeah, I agree. I
because-
feel like
yeah.
Pathfinder 2E is a better game in a VTT than it is without. I just think like it works better as a system with the assistance of a VTT than it does without. And that might be a hot take, I don't know, but I think that it achieves all the things that it's trying to achieve at a much better way because it feels like that game is already coded like a computer game with all the tags and everything. Like it's already
Right.
using computer language as far as how it references itself. That like it was a game changer for me. I'll tell you that. Like when I read the 2E core rule book, I was like, what? I gotta like cross reference like so many different pages, and I don't even know where to go. And then you put it in Foundry, for instance, and it's like, oh, this game is elegant as hell. I love this system. I love running this system. And a lot of that's just kind of new system overwhelmingness regardless. But
Period,
I
yeah.
just VTTs, they might be a crutch, but they really make some of these games so much more manageable as an adult person with a life that has other things to do than study rule books all day
I
long.
would go so far as to say if you're playing a physical game, you should have a laptop up with your
Absolutely.
stuff in a VTT.
100%.
It's not a bad idea.
That's what
I would go that far because I've done that.
Yeah, same. Like in the physical, like the game that I'm running for my bandmates, we still use Foundry, even though we're all in the same room. It's like it just changes the game.
And maybe even a crutch is the wrong word for it. That baby's a hot rod with flames on the side of it, and it makes it smooth. It goes quick. You get to focus on narrative moments. You get to okay, at the end of my turn, Frightened falls off, and then oh wait, no, it doesn't fall off because I'm in this aura that does this thing, or there's so many different things to consider when you're playing that game live. If you are playing Pathfinder, or even soon to be Starfinder 2nd Edition live, get yourself some condition cards, baby. Get yourself condition cards. That will make the game smoother. And that's the biggest thing that the Foundry and your VTTs do, is they handle the conditions. And like people in chat are saying, it's a programming principles are under the hood for design.
Well, it makes a system that is so difficult to conceptualize with its crunch. It turns so many people off with its crunch. It makes it so accessible. And you owe it to the players at your table that aren't mathematicians, right? to at least dabble. Like I understand. I got a finance brand, baby. I do quick math all day. I'm figuring out what stuff is before people are rolling, right? That doesn't, that's not going to be everyone at your table. And this stuff just works. And you can get through an adventure path so much faster. Not that speed is the best thing in the world, but speed is the best thing in the world when you're going slow because you're arguing and you're not doing math right, and you're giving yourself.
You're not going slow, right? Like it's not that you rush through; it's just that you're not dragging.
I'd even say it's speed up to slow down, because just to Tyler's point, it lets the role play breathe, because you haven't taken 3 hours of a 4-hour session arguing about rules and trying to math your turns.
Right. Totally.
But are VTTs ruining the physical dice business across the nation?
Perhaps. Have you seen the physical dice that integrate with the VTTs? Because those are pretty cool. And those are a new thing.
We got pixels on the way for us right now.
I got pixels on the way, and Chris got me a D20 that integrates with Foundry for my birthday. That's
cool. I didn't know that.
Best of both worlds, baby. But honestly, if you use Foundry, I'm sure it works with some other systems. There is a way to input a roll into a, hey, I'm rolling athletics. You can input a roll into it. Whether it's a module or it's in the base system, I'm not entirely sure right now. But you can do that, and you can play with physical dice.
And to E-Rob's point, I haven't officially rolled dice and added a modifier to it in almost 4 years, on a regular basis. I still buy dice every fucking month. I can't stop doing it.
You just putting them on your wall or what?
They just hang out in my shelf, man. They're on display.
My pillowcase is full of
spicy math rocks.
Right. I think we can squeeze one more short one in, Allard.
All right, a short one, you say. Well, probably not that one. Let's see. Can we answer the question how to go about making challenges for specific players, be it narrative or mechanical obstacles? Is that a quick question or is that a long question?
Well, it's a quick question in that
could be
the answer is specific to the player. So there's not a singular thing that I do to make challenges for specific players, other than listen to the players, know what their characters can do and what they struggle with, and then adapt to that. Like, but there's no broad stroke for that because it's always going to be about the individual character and the individual player.
Hi, Eli.
It's an Eli sighting.
What's up, Eli?
Yeah, mechanically know what your party is doing to break your encounters and honor that. Don't take it away,
Let 'em do
but
it.
do throw some encounters in that counter that. So if it's your champion with their way too high AC, blocking a bunch of your baddies, throw something in that doesn't target AC. If it's you're constantly getting frightened to by a charisma character, throw in a mindless enemy. Um, you have options. You have so many options, and to directly counter anyone is probably going to be seen as directly countering them, to be honest, because most parties have like, I'm good at this and I'm good at that and I'm good at that and I'm good at that, right? And so you want to avoid doing that as much as possible while still providing a challenge. I think you kind of take the blend of what they're good at and find the couple gaps in that. It's a little Swiss cheese, and you got to find a couple of holes and fill one of those holes. That's what I'm telling you. Fill a hole, baby.
Fill a hole.
Fill a hole.
And
Put
you know,
some
if
cheese
you're
in it.
if you're going to be really aiming towards a weakness in a party, have it come from an NPC that has studied them or is betraying them, because then it's not you as the game master who's screwing with them. It's a person in the story who's watched them, realizes where their weaknesses are, and exploit it. That's going to make them tie to the story even tighter.
Definitely.
And it's going to make them watch their backs.
Yep.
Yeah. And I feel like if you can make that thing that targets their weakness, maybe the NPC or whatever, like there's still a secret with your PC that the NPC doesn't know, and maybe the secret can be the force that overwhelms the negative that the NPC is hitting.
Yeah,
like if a fighter gets hit by a bear trap, it's targeting like a reflex save, but then they can strength it open with one of their kind of
That's
I didn't know
pretty-
Jeremy just bought a ring of fire resist, and all I got is fireballs for these guys with shitty
That might be a
reflex
little
saves.
too-
One thing that you can do that might be a little bit more devious, but in the end it's for the player. Rather than throwing a counter to a specific ability that seems to be cheesing all your enemies. And I think Griff was kind of saying this, but like make an encounter that highlights that action, but at a scale that's much larger, right? So now, okay, they're the Paladin's Retribution Strike or whatever. That's really giving you business. We'll put a bunch of things so he's using it all the time, but he's
Never
having
gets
to,
that AOO off, right?
But right, and he's using it to a point to where he feels badass because he's using his ability, but it's like stretching him because they got to use it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then follow that up with an encounter after they've used all their big badass stuff and they're drained on resources. Then you hit them with an encounter where they can't do it, and it's like, okay, well, I got to be a badass, but here's the consequence of overextending myself, and
That's a cool way to do it.
That is
yeah.
a cool way to do it. You even give them the opportunity to feel smart for reserving resources if they don't overextend themselves as well.
Right.
Yeah, and they're able to like see in the future and be like, I could do this better in the future. I have room to grow as a character too.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's going to wrap it up. However, I'm sure the other GMs here would be happy to answer some of the questions we didn't get to that are in the chat just via chat, right, in our Discord channel. But we do have a little bit of news or teasers. I don't know how much Tyler is going to reveal here. Tyler, you can reveal as much as you want about the future of GM Happy Hour. We've had some calls and we've really loved doing this and we've missed doing it. And so we've recalibrated to try to figure out a new way to bring this to you. So Tyler, what are we going to do?
Yeah, so and I think I can speak for all of us when we start this conversation is one of the things we really wanted to do. One of our original goals for Game Master Happy Hour was to take our communities, because we were all had somehow gotten in touch with each other outside of the show and realized that we all clicked really, really well. And we thought that our listeners, as diverse as they were, would also click with these other shows. So what we really wanted to do was create this sort of mixing pot community where, hey, you like what we're doing, you're gonna like what they're doing too, and just make it. We bounce each other around. And at this point in our careers, if you listen to HLP, if you listen to STF, if you listen to any of us, right, there's a very good chance you've given one of these other shows a shot, right? And we appreciate that deeply. Right, we love you guys. You're one of the best communities I've ever been a part of, and that speaks for all of you, right? People on the screen here, those of you in chat, those of you at STFCon, and what we would like to do while also just getting together and have drinks is extend out an arm to other people in the space. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be inviting other people, other GMs, other podcasters into our space, help lift them up, give you all the chance to get to know some of these other people, and get some other voices in here too. One of the things we realized really, the reason we haven't gotten together in 2 years, and I even had the thought a couple of times tonight, we've definitely covered this. Go check out PC Death and You, or Session Zero. Like we've really dug deep on these topics. And if you're interested on hearing what our opinions on it, go check out Game Master Happy Hour. We got a YouTube channel, and every single piece of content we've done is there. There's 20 plus hours of it. But we want to bring some new voices in. And we don't have a schedule laid out for you yet. We're all very busy people. But we're going to be getting together once every couple of months. And we're going to take this format, do a live stream. We'll announce it to you guys when it happens well ahead of time. And then we're going to, in the back end, in post, cut things into much more digestible pieces to then put out into the world. Like we said really early on, if you give the four of us the opportunity, we could talk for hours. We love hanging out with each other, and we love answering your guys' questions. But, it is not exactly easy to bring new people in. It's like, hey, check out this 3-hour video of 4 people talking about a single topic, and then other questions that people ask while they progressively get more drunk.
Specific person.
Yeah.
Specific like that.
So we are going to be doing that very shortly. Look for that in the future. We still have to schedule that first session. And if you have somebody in the space that you feel like would really click with us that we don't know about, let us know. We'll bring them in. We'll do some interviews, and we'll start clicking through and really tightening the tapestry that is the very niche Paizoverse podcasting sphere. We all love what we do, but we don't have the time to go find each other as well as we would like. So let's do this together, and that's the plan.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think it is a natural evolution of GM Happy Hour. And I'm also curious to see what Tyler does to make it digestible.
We'll see. I'm still working on it, man.
Yeah.
Editing magic.
Yeah. I think that about wraps it up for us. Does anybody have any parting words, thoughts?
We love you.
I've loved.
Yeah, sure.
It's great to be back.
Yeah. I mean, that's about what I was going to say. Thank you guys for spending this last hour with us. Thank you guys all for being part of STFCon and making it awesome. We're very excited about what the future of GM Happy Hour holds as it becomes kind of its own entity outside of any of our individual networks. And there's still so much more con to be had. So if you haven't checked out the women's panel that was right before this, that should be up on demand now. It was fantastic. It was really, really insightful. Lots of good conversation there. And we have another panel tomorrow where we're going to talk about adventure writing. So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you guys again. Thank you, Griff. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Allard, for giving us some time today. And with that, we'll see you.
See ya.
We'll see you.
Yeah,
We'll
we'll
see.
see.
We'll see you.